Now I'm going to talk about one of my favorite animes, which to nobody's surprise came from the 2010s, and honestly, I don't know how popular it actually is, but I do know it's not spoken about nearly enough, especially considering how good it is. So let me introduce you to the world of justice through pack-a-punch switches and AI gaslighting. That'll all make sense in a little bit. But first, we gotta tackle that opening, man. This shit is some genuine heat. Matter of fact, hit the lights. Let me turn up. Cause I feel I can always show my everything to you. If this moment was for me, I'm gonna stop saying the real lyrics, cause I feel like they'll copyright me. Copyright me. Yeah, I'll be releasing my cover, my opening cover track list out, $50 a piece, tap in. But that's enough of that. As my nigga Senshi would say, let's get into the meat and potatoes. So our opening scene, we see this nigga in a high-rise building and he's got his collar popped, exuding serious aura with this blick. Some guy who's very obviously a low-tier piece of fodder sneaks him, but he gets weaved. He ups pole, but his gun jams. So then he just thumps him and drops him off the building. I'm sure whoever is paying him for this job is not giving him enough money for all of this. Funniest thing is, Buddy in the suit didn't even let him hit the ground, he just burst him with his tool. Then this nigga descends the stairs like his eyes and talking about some, you fought well. Look at this stare down too. What could possibly have made you that mad? That's the end of that. I'm edging you guys just like how they edged me. They just stopped the scene right there. Now this is one of our joint MCs, Akane Tsunemori, who is a woman. Now 14-year-old me would have clicked off immediately because there's no way a female MC can be cold, right? But I'm better now. I'm intelligent. Also, Buddy with the suit is basically MC2, and this is her first day on the job as a detective, and over here is her superior. I guess Nov was able to overcome the PTSD and get back on the field. Nice. His actual name is Genoza, and the Crime Investigation Department, or CID, is low on manpower, so he really doesn't have time to be treating Tsunemori as a newbie. She's getting straight to the action. First objective is hawking down this man who has been declared a latent criminal by the Sybil system. And here's where we listen up, folks. Time for a narrative crash course. So the Sybil system basically is an AI that looks at people and thinks, this nigga will probably become a criminal in the future. It allows you to basically pre-arrest them, hence the name latent criminal. Or in some cases, you just get to uphold on them. They gauge a person's psychopath, and if it exceeds a certain threshold, they'll be deemed too far gone and get blown to bits with a special gun. More on that later. In short, the Sybil system is a dystopian AI government that enforces peace by predicting and eliminating threats before crime occurs. So if you're black and suddenly transported to this world, make sure you're not walking around with a shiesty on. They might just pulverize you. Back on the anime, this truck turns the corner and pops doors, revealing this squad of latent criminals, except they're used as hunting dogs to hunt other latent criminals. And check how cold these guys look posted up like this. Like nigga, if you do not open your eyes, they're known as the enforcers, and Genoza assigns the teams, Kunizuka and Kaguri with him, and the other two with Tsunemori. They pick up their pro, which are called dominators, and they can only fire at latent criminals. The basic mode is paralysis, and the non-basic mode is, well, Kogami tells Tsunemori that she should feel free to shoot him if she doesn't like how he does things. That's Masaoka, by the way. So we finally see old Buddy, and he's tweaking about his life being over because he's being seen as a criminal. A post-up next to him is a woman clearly there against her will. I'm confused as to where the potential criminal lies here. This nigga is entirely deranged. So Kunizuka has already tracked Buddy down and he immediately lets his gun fly, but the paralyzer isn't working because he's popped all sorts of pills. Now he has a hostage, making the Dominator increase his crime coefficient so much that it turns into lethal mode. And that shit scares the shit out of him, so he jumps out the window. He ain't even know if anything was down there for real, he just took the chance. They corner him again, but he's still got the woman on his hips, so he just has barking orders. Big Mac meal, 50 bands, and your blick, nigga. Now these guys are technically law enforcement, so they prioritize safety and comply. Except the blick's got face ID and shit nowadays. This is not 2025 anymore. He's cooked. That's when Kogami spawns in behind him and his pole genuinely bursts this guy. Now Tsunemori is trying to comfort the girl that was victimized during all this, just to have Masaoka looming over her with his drink in hand. Yes, he's really about to slime her because her crime coefficient skyrocketed. Purely because her mental state got cooked, seeing as, she was a hostage. Tsunemori is pleading with bro to stop, but he really just doing his job, and with that we see the first design flaw with the Sybil system. Now Kogami actively hawks her down, and she's rolling around in gasoline for some reason with a lighter in her hand. There's really no excuse now. His blick turns lethal mode, but Tsunemori shoots Kogami, who's technically vulnerable to the Dominator 100% of the time because he's a latent criminal as well. She talk no jutsus the girl, and her crime coefficient drops only to the non-lethal level. Genoza ain't really with all that bullshit though, and he paralyzes her on sight. Hey, don't be welcome, party man. At least Kogami wakes up, though he's feeling like he just got black flashed. This hasn't really got any plot relevance yet, but peep how these guys got personal home robots that can change their room's aesthetic. This is cold, I'm not gonna lie. It even got built-in fit changes, yet she still decided to leave her house with pink tights on.
That shit weak as fuck.
She meets up with her school friends and they're talking about how everyone receives a sort of job compatibility list before they set off to the workforce, and her MC here was compatible with just about every job there is, but she was the only one in her entire school to get chosen as a crime investigator, so she picks that one. She pulls up to work and asks the company physician about Kogumi's situation, but forget all that for now. Why did they make her this bad? Like, I'm not even a red lipstick kind of guy, but golly. Anyway, Masaoka and Tsunemori go on an investigation to pack up someone who's increasing the stress level in the community, and they got on these stupid mascots in order to blend in, and they peep this happy ass couple under the ceiling lights on some happy ass date. Shit is kind of making me mad speaking about it. I don't know these guys, but fuck them. And this guy feels the same way. This is definitely his old squeeze. I'm crying. I don't even know who he thinks he's hiding from. We can see you clear as day. And speaking of hiding, they'll probably need today's sponsor ExpressVPN, which shields your online activity from service providers, hackers, data thieves, or any other party trying to spy on you. So the next time you're trying to search up Asana's feet pictures in secret on your local coffee shop's free Wi-Fi, you won't have to second guess getting caught by anybody, at least over the internet. It's okay, you're not alone. This can happen to any of us. This has happened to all of us, right? That's just one of its many uses. You ever go out to watch a new anime only to find out it's not available in your region? The worst, right? Well, with ExpressVPN, you can change your online location and unlock shows from different countries' streaming libraries. And even I have personally used this feature. You want access to the full Netflix anime catalog, including shows like Naruto and Cowboy Bebop? Just connect to the server there. Boom, you're in. And this works for all streaming platforms like Crunchyroll, Disney Plus, and more. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or by going to expressvpn.com/narratives. No, seriously, I want to leave it on the screen. Scan this. Back to the video, and Masaoka quote unquote just knows that Buddy is the one causing a disturbance and pre-arrests him. He ain't even really do anything yet, but he was clearly plotting. These are the guys you gotta take out early. Tsunemori later visits Kogumi, who doesn't condemn her for shooting him, and she starts crying, getting all soppy. You know how it goes. You can tell she's clearly, genuinely sorry. Kogumi starts getting all fired up and saying it's gonna take a lot for him to quit anyway, as he's still got unfinished business. And you don't know what's happening in this flashback yet, but he looks genuinely stressed the hell out. New mission now, and they're investigating this drone production company. Only problem is 3 guys have got slimed here already by the drones acting out. However, the CID believe it's not malfunction, but somebody intentionally doing it. I don't even know who they got working in this Five Nights at Freddy's type plotline, but unless I'm making 10 bands of breath in there, there's no possible way I'm working in here. I mean, just look at my manager. I don't need to hear the rest. This man is guilty.
Do not smile at me like that, dog. Ew.
They get a drone to play a recorded image of the body. And speaking of Five Nights at Freddy's, I think bro got done up by Mangle. Genoza asked the manager if this happening 3 times, is not weird as hell. But he's just like, sorry, if you have a problem with our management, you can just take it up, on Reddit or something. He gives up all the staff's data and reads that their hues are clear. By the way, a clear hue means, their very normal state of mind, that you could say, while a cloudy one is then being susceptible to increased crime coefficients. Genoza asked to analyze them using the Sybil system, but that'll take too long, so he has a better idea. Just pointing the tool to their dome and seeing the reading that it gives. However, Mr. Manager here is all about his cheese, and he says lining them up to do this will make production slower and therefore slow down his money back, which he cannot have. He's a sack chaser. I mean, look at him. You think he even cares that his own employees are getting slimed? He asked them to prove it's a murder and not a work accident first, then he will comply. You're probably wondering why they don't just, use the Dominators irrespective in order to speed this whole thing up. They actually can't, since the plant cuts off electromagnetic waves or something of that nature, meaning they can't connect the Dominators to the Sybil system. In the lunchroom, the enforcers are 100% sure that's a murder because, they just seem to have a nose for it. And as they're explaining that to Tsunemori, some dude gets knocked over the lunchroom. No! Not the hot honey tenders. Hey! Yellow green. Puh. You gonna eat that off the floor? Why these niggas just call him by the color of his hue like it's a slur? Then they're gonna kick his basmati rice away right after. Dog, put the hand down. There's nothing there anymore. Tsunemori asks the manager how this is acceptable, and he says, hey man, look. Someone got to keep these guys entertained. Look at the work environment. I guess the Sybil system recommended him this job for this purpose. This man is not normal. Where is HR? And Kogumi gets to sneak this in. He says, and Sybil gave your fat ass this job because it knows you'll turn a blind eye to all this. W come back, he baked his ass. And look at this smug ass Tsunemori grin, man. She knows he cooked. Their analysis shows that the target of the group's bullying changes, and when that singular person's hue gets too cloudy, they get transferred. It's a pattern in this company until now, where this singular guy has been the target for almost a year, but his hue is still only yellow-green, which is, acceptable, I guess. However, his hue has been improving. It was actually as worse the day before the last guy died. So if you don't get it by now, they think he's been killing niggas bullying him to relieve stress. This is all alleged though, and Genoza really starts getting mad because they're jumping to conclusions based off intuition. Or rather, he's mad at the ones doing are the enforcers, who are just latent criminals too. He's really a racist when it all comes down to it. Tsunemori is reasoning with him and asks if something happened between him and Masaoka, and check the eyes he looked at her with. That's pure rage. They initiate phase 2 and bring out some wires for the Dominators to get signal way out here, and Kogami bursts into the stall that the target is eating it. He doesn't even care if he's shitting or not. He pulls him right out and starts calling him a murderer and threatens to expose his antics. He's really cooking him. For some reason, this makes him all flustered, and he sprints out the stall straight to the control room to start controlling the drones. This shit just turns into an all-out chase, and they get a hawk down so bad that the drones start cutting through the floor to catch them. This is like 500k worth of damage. Kaguri and Kunizuka pull up, and Kunizuka throws Kogami his blick while Kaguri rams into the robot. Kogami's strap now is GG's. That is a lot of Ks. He one pumps the murderer, then the Dominator enters lethal mode for 2 easy licks on the robots, and yeah, they can be used on non-humans too. But with that, case closed. For a society that can literally pre-fire criminals, you'd think there would be a lot less crime, but no, because these guys are back again with another crime to solve. This time they pull off to a crib with a guy who's been missing for a while, except being missing in this society is basically impossible, since every street you go on is equipped with huge scanning cameras, so effectively this nigga is probably dead. He also happens to be one of those VR YouTubers, so he'd be making that internet cheese. They turn off the custom room setting and find out the chair has been moved to hide the scratch in the ground. Kogami turns into L for a minute and deduces that someone came in here, taped the floor with some sort of plastic, took bro off the map, then cut him up and flushed him down the toilet. Turns out he was actually the same avatar that Tsunemori was interacting with that morning. But if he was dead, how is that possible? I know and you don't, so continue watching. So Tsunemori and Genoza hop into the VR world and decide to observe the dead guy's avatar, and see he enters this chat room with Spooky Boogie.
Nigga, why would you do that? Jay!
She also happens to be one of Tsunemori's real life classmates. Well, former classmates. And Tsunemori is questioning her about the avatar talisman. She's complying and even decides to help them out by setting up some sort of popularity 1v1 like meet and greet thing in real life so that they can lie in talisman, and they get on that immediately. Glocks on hip. Talisman gets the drop from this guy that someone with a Dominator is on the floor, and he changes everyone's appearance to his via hacking, meaning there's no more being discreet. They just have to start upping pole at everyone in order to find out who the real one is. And turns out like half of the guys in here are criminals. Anyone going to VTuber meet and greets the club is not a normal person. Talisman manages to flee amongst the chaos. Back in the virtual world, the fans are on Spooky Boogie's ass for that meet and greet, and even Talisman's there pitting the blame on her. She does the #1 streamer tactic to avoid criticism and gets straight to blocking him, except there is a nigga in her house, and he genuinely sucks the life out of her. He talking about some, "You're not fit to be Spooky Boogie. How can I take this that serious when you're going around saying this? Her name is Spooky Boogie." But it's here we meet the true antagonist of the series, Psycho-Pass's very own Aizen, Shogo Makishima. As we know, Spooky Boogie just got taken off the Atlas, but she's here scolding Tsunemori. Doesn't take a genius to realize it's not actually her. They review footage of the interview and see that the different speech patterns means for sure that the murderer has got Spooky Boogie as well. So they do what they do best and roll out. They trace back to some place and kick down doors. However, that was the age-old bait and switch. That place was rigged with bombs. Genoza receives a call that Spooky got the same treatment as the first guy after they get to her room. So they're really wondering now who could be behind all of this, and look at data for all the top users in each avatar's chat rooms. Because in order to play as somebody, you must have to spend a lot of time with them. Then they look at which of those top users suddenly stop showing up after the time of the icon's death, because you obviously cannot be in 2 places at once. And that leads them to this guy, who, as we already know, is the culprit. They storm his room, but he's not entirely going down without a fight, and starts making the room look like hard drug vision before sprinting on out of there. Both Masahiko and Kogami are really like Batman and Robin. They start breathing fire with alcohol and a lighter to activate the sprinklers. The hologram stops working, and you already know what happens once that dummy gets pulled out. Headshot. Never mind, he missed. He's finished though, I ain't even gonna lie. He ends up back in his room, and he feels all comfortable and cozy with his avatar robots talking to him. But Shogo Makishima really does not mess with imperfection, and he starts mentally tormenting him with his own avatars just before the police department pull up on him. And yeah, GG. So Kaguri and Tsunemori are chopping it up over a few drinks, and they're talking about Kogami, who in the past used to be an inspector himself before becoming a latent criminal. However, it was only after the enforcer under his wing got killed that he actually became a latent criminal. She pries a little more back at the unit, and she on the physician shows the unsolved case. And whoever that nigga was real life creating Resident Evil characters using dead humans and publicly displaying it for everyone to see. That's how he got Kogami's boy. Needless to say, anybody who actually saw that atrocity had the stress levels shoot way up. They have a suspect, but he went missing and was never seen again. So, the scene for what will be the next crime is an all-girls school. And if you have my type of anime experience, you'll be able to spot the person on some BS from a mile away. If you guessed Cleopatra over here, you'd be right. Sorry for the spoiler. She's the queen of this all-girls school, and she invites one of her classmates to her arts club, where she is drawing human heads on a person's lap. She just watched Hunter x Hunter RIP Kite. The CID are investigating the big bone robot guy and asking where he received the malware to turn the robots evil. He says he just got it in the mail from an anonymous guy. Now Kogami believes the person doing this is the same person who orchestrated the crime in his past that killed his homeboy, except Kogami just looks like a pitiful guy grasping at straws from the outside. A couple engineers are working on a hologram fountain that's glitching out, and when they turn it off they see some sort of freaky looking sculpture that strangely resembles the girl in the painting Oreo, aka Cleopatra, was making. Then it cuts to a scene of her drawing. Yeah, she did that shit. There's a person in the room with her and it's the same guy we saw in the last case, Makishima. The CID arrive at the scene, and because the cases are so similar, Genoza takes Kogami off the case because he knows that Kogami will get too riled up with all the biases and whatnot. He assigns Tsunemori to watch over Kogami. She's even watching him train. Hey, chill on the butt, gang, and put your damn shirt on. You're intriguing, my homegirl. Don't know if I mentioned this before, but I really rock with Tsunemori. She's on the team. They begin having a deeper talk about Kogami and his subordinate and how he ended up becoming an enforcer. Long story short, after seeing his dismembered friend, he started wishing for the culprit to meet that same fate, thus clouding his hue and in turn making his crime coefficient high enough to be penalized. He doesn't regret his actions, but only the fact that the crime is unsolved. However, there's one singular lead. This 144p Android picture of who we and the CID know as Shogo Makishima. We teleport to Oreo's room and she's butt beauty naked with the girl from school, and they clearly on some freaky timing. Except to what should not be your surprise at this stage, she's unresponsive. She pulls up to this underground room at her school with a suitcase in hand, and we got this 2025 Gin Ichimaru in here delivering some sort of mystery heinous liquids to her. I won't even ask what it's for, just peep her in this surgeon outfit and I'll tell you for free, this woman did not go to med school. Around then, they discover the next body. It cuts to another student asking about the missing one, and she looks at what Oreo is painting before concluding that she is a freak. But by then, it's too late. 2 seconds later, she's opening her eyes and she's staring at her homegirl's head floating. Everyone at the CID is convinced that the culprit is the same as the Kogami case from a few years ago. Everybody except Kogami, who's on some L shit again, talking about some this work is different. It lacks originality. It lacks class. And yeah, he's right. He brings Tsunemori to the criminal detention center to meet one of the captives there who's very knowledgeable in art. He also looks like someone's musculoskeletal system, but hey, we can ignore that for now. There, Kogami shows Oreo's killings and asks if anybody has had similar art in the past, and which the man likens it to a guy named Roichi, who turns out to be directly related to Oreo. Matter of fact, it's her dad. To be honest, there's like a minor plot point with her dad. I would have showed it, but I was too lazy to cover it. Now, you know how Kogami is. He wastes no time getting to the school. He even brushes past Genoza and goes straight to the art room before asking Oreo, "Are you Oreo Rikako?" And she's thinking shit, so we talking about some yes. Before she knows it, Kogami is already up-polling her, and her crime coefficient is dead. That's 480. That's like 150 more than the highest we've seen so far. Obviously, the Dominator goes into lethal mode, but this stupid principal stops Kogami because he doesn't want to stress out the other students. This woman is single-handedly removing people from your class list. Permanently. And because of that interruption, she gets away. They manage to find the secret lab through the reverse image search, while Shogo is watching the whole thing unfold from right under their noses, posing as a teacher. Then he starts corrupting all the video files in the art room so that he's not caught. After uncovering this nasty ass double kill, they talk about how impossible it would be for Oreo to do all of this by herself. Just then, the video files get corrupted, but they're able to recover the audio file, where Oreo uses the name Mr. Makishima. Speaking of her, she's not using the escape route provided by Makishima. However, I told you guys before, this man does not tolerate mediocrity. He cuts the phone on her, but his last words are reciting some sort of text basically saying, "You're getting hunted now, nigga." Now, we got mechanical dogs, bear traps, and an old guy humming while holding a 12 gauge. Long story short, she gets a slug to the dome, and now Makishima has his sights set on Kogami. You know how unfortunate you have to be to have this absolute psycho be interested in you? Tsunemori and Kogami meet with this man Joji, who's a psychiatric examiner, or rather a former one, who seems to be very good at his job as he's able to tell all sorts of things about people at first glance. Nothing really happens. I just need to introduce him because he will be important. They return to the office and Genoza's mad that Kogami brought her to Joji since he's sort of an outlaw who clouds people's views just by interacting with them. Tsunemori feels like Genoza babies her too much and they get into a spat in front of everyone, and that's when Masahiko brings her out and explains why Genoza is the way he is. His father was a latent criminal detective whose hue became clouded by becoming too close to investigation. Because of that trauma, he doesn't want the same thing that happened to his father and Kogami to happen to Tsunemori, especially since when the Sybil system was introduced, the family members of latent criminals were under some bad stereotyping too. Tsunemori gets his message in the middle of the night. Hold on, Tsunemori. Where you going with all that?
You weird, buddy.
The message was from her friend telling her to link up at a dodgy place. Thankfully, like a breath of fresh air, this female character isn't a complete moron and takes some precautionary measures, like bringing her favorite enforcer Kogami along with her. He even goes in there solo, how chivalrous. Tsunemori is giving him instructions from her car, and midway through the connection cuts out. The line reconnects, but not for Tsunemori. Someone is pretending to be her, giving Kogami instructions on how to maneuver this place. They tell him to check this abandoned train line, and all of a sudden it begins moving. Tsunemori can only watch from her car as Kogami's location is steaming away from her. The operator on the line tells Kogami to check inside the carriage, and he sees Akane's friend tied up and bagged inside the carriage. She's frightened, but he calms her down after showing his badge. She better than me. Just by knowing what world I'm in, there would be zero sighs of relief ever. The train comes to a stop and they really have no choice but to play into the hands of the enemy and get off. There's even this robot dog chasing after them, and look at the dents it's putting into the door. It was not to be played with. Funniest thing is, bro's name is probably something like Joy or like Bubbles. Then they end up in this abandoned place, getting looked at by Makishima and a guy with a Remington, and they talking about some let the hunt begin. This is real life, dog. Kogami's lighting the path with glow sticks he found in this bag set up by the hunter. Bro's giving them perks like his Dead by Daylight to make it interesting. He's noticing a bunch of traps on the way, and they see another bag. This dumbass sprints towards it after seeing like 6 different medieval traps and triggers a sensor alerting the hunting dogs. They get to sprinting but almost catch a shell to the intestines. They really like straight prey in this shit. It got them stuck up against the wall. In the bag is a communication device without a battery or antenna because the man doing the hunting is clearly neurodivergent. Kogami decides they need to eliminate one of the dogs if they have any chance of winning this. So he jumps up and uses himself as the bait. He weaves this head smash, but check out the hunter turns this corner, man. You can tell he's peaked like that. If that's me, I'm pre-firing while I swing. That's a common angle, dog. You can tell this man has never touched Siege. Come on. Kogami ducks into cover, weaving the shotgun twice. He even got the audacity to be poking his head out, knowing one wrong move means he'll look like Freddy Krueger. And he just sprints right past him. He knows he only got 2 in the mag. He leads the 2 dogs towards each other and then shock sticks the red one before noticing it's got a battery strapped to his back. They collide and he gets flung under one of the traps, and yeah, man, he knows it's over. People trying to scramble away, he's trying to run. Kogami takes the battery and weaves another shotgun shell before getting back to Akane's friend and running. Now they come to a stop because she's tired as hell. After all, she's not a trained professional, and Kogami begins to wonder why the hunter even involved her in the game in the first place if they just wanted to lure him out. She says it's fine for him to abandon her as that's what she expected, but he's too busy trying to aura farm to respond. Then he demands her to take off her clothes. Now YouTube, before you nuke me, this scene has narrative importance. But when has that ever stopped them? I'm a sack chaser, pause, so you guys are just gonna have to imagine this scene. Questions why her underwear are 2 different pieces are not matching, and then tells her to hand him her bra, in which the antenna was hidden inside the bra frame. Separately, Akane's friend is kinda bad. He retrieves the antenna, I don't even know how he managed to find it in there, and the rest of the CID managed to get Kogami's last updated position. To the CID, the possibility that Kogami deserted the team is still an option technically, and Jinoza is laying into Tsunemori, telling her that it would be her fault if they end up having to kill Kogami with the Dominator. He said it in a very harsh way, but Masaoko gives him an earful for it. Seconds later, Kogami connects with the outside and gives them the drop, meaning that route of him deserting came to a close almost immediately, so they can head up in there and give him their full support. Now I know Jinoza looks like a bad guy, but chill on my dog, he's really a good kid at heart. Kogami's still on the run, but the buggy carrying the Dominators turns the corner like a supply drop. The hunting dog slams into it, but he ain't really know that would be a mistake because Kogami slides in and gets his strap. It goes straight to lethal mode and check his next move. He really took this one out of Minato's book. And check his landing too. Who is he feeling like? Who is he feeling like? The hunter turns the corner and finally hits Kogami, and he's really feeling himself. He's happy the rest of the bureau is pulling up. They start going shot for shot, and I'm just now realizing this sicko designed this place like a COD map, but he must not have played enough because Kogami takes off bro's entire arm. And he returns the favor right after with this trick shot to the gut. And he really blows his ass back. He fell off the wall. The hunter is made up of a lot of robot parts, so he didn't really feel it. However, Kogami is actively bleeding out. And look how scary bro's shadow looks with the Remy in his hand. That's a real villain. He's following Kogami's blood trail, and he starts getting all happy when he's seeing his oil can roll over, and then a person poking out to the side. He turns the corner, but it's just some fine shit, so he pauses. But that pause is all it takes. He gets smoked in his back. That's how you tell he's a real high-level Siege player. Look at this unorthodox angle he's holding. She runs to Kogami, but he's blacking out from the blood loss. Kogami sees her get handcuffed and gagged by Shogo before being brought away. Tsunemori and Masaoko find Kogami soon after, but he's telling them to keep going, there's one more person. And now, here's when this anime really locks in, so stay strapped. Tsunemori catches up to Makishima, but his crime coefficient is under the threshold for enforcement. After all, he never actually really did anything. And then he gives his opinion on Shibu's system, not being able to truly know anything. All while he's pointing a shotgun at Yuki, his crime coefficient is dropping. He drops the shotgun to Tsunemori and handcuffs Yuki to the railing before declaring that he will kill her right now. He tells tells her to throw away the Dominator if she really wants to stop him and use the shotgun instead. However, Tsunemori is conflicted as this is not the society she grew up in. She's used to the Dominator doing everything for her. She never knew that shit got wicked in this life. Makishima actually cuts Yuki, yet his crime coefficient stays low, as he is the exception to the Sybil system. His hue has never been clouded in his entire life, meaning that if anybody ever wants to judge him, it must be out of their own will. And frankly, Tsunemori's heart does not beat like that. She is shaking. That's Makishima's issue with the world. They can only judge when hiding behind the Sybil system. He finds it pitiful, and because of that, he is punishing them by killing Yuki's best friend in front of her very eyes. Salt in the wound is his crime coefficient to being literally 0 as he cuts her neck open the next frame. Then, he disappears into the night, leaving Tsunemori broken. The next episode is about Kunizuka's backstory, but we are on a tight schedule, and I'm lazy, so we're cutting corners. Long story short, she wasn't able to bring justice since Dominators only respond to people who are allowed to use them, so she decided to become an enforcer. We see Genoza with lab reports are telling him that his crime coefficient keeps increasing, and that he needs to vent all of his worries to somebody to bring him back to a normal level. The doctor suggests a family or a girlfriend, but the only one he has is his father, the latent criminal. Genoza meets with the leader of the CID and Sybil system to report the incident with the Dominators not working on Makishima. However, she's very avoidant of it and chalks up to Tsunemori being incompetent. She also says the most important thing for the Sybil system is not being perfect, but rather everyone believing it's perfect. The investigators and enforcers exist as a safety net for malfunctions, or else they just equip drones with Dominators. She then shows Genoza something confidential. The case that they've been working on all now was actually solved by another division. However, the culprit of the crime was actually criminally asymptomatic, just like Makishima, meaning that they are immune to the Sybil system's judgment, though it was kept under wraps so that the public don't begin being doubtful of Sybil. Now, Genoza has been tasked with bringing Makishima to Sybil alive. Tsunemori is about to undergo a memory scoop where they replay a memory of hers in order to construct an image of Shogo's face. The issue is that the only time she saw it was when he was literally removing her best friend from this world, and reliving that would likely cloud her psychopath. But she is renowned for having a very clear hue, so she takes that risk anyway. They boot it up and she starts tweaking in the machine. However, it ends up successful and the face of Shogo has been retrieved. Genoza is talking to Masaoka one-on-one and wonders how Tsunemori is able to maintain such a clear psychopath. He believes that it's because she fully believes in what she's doing as good and embodies the essence of being a detective. Genoza asked, was it not like that for Masaoka too? His response was that one day when the world gave him a robot gun that told him whether people could be judged or not, he couldn't stand it as it's not how he believed a detective should operate. And it slowly clouded his psychopath until he became a latent criminal. It's also here we realize through subliminal messages that Masaoka is in fact Genoza's father, who became a latent criminal. We got this guy with a helmet waltzing into a hospital before just straight impaling his poor worker with a pair of scissors because he didn't cough up any of the prescription medicine. Keep in mind that this is right in front of a camera that should have alerted everybody that this guy's literally schizophrenic. Not gonna lie, they should just remove the Sybil system entirely because there are cold-blooded murders like every other week in this show. No sustainable first world capital city should have statistics like this. The CID get to the crime scene and find that the somatic scanners found 0 issues with this guy. They realize it's probably due to the helmet he has on. Fast forward to later, this woman is walking through the city on the phone, then bumps into this masked man. Yeah, I had the same reaction as you. For no good reason too, he just pulls out a hammer and bludgeons this woman to death. Someone help her! Why are you guys watching and recording? The CID sees the videos, and the actual damage the idea of people being able to commit crime and get away with it could potentially be extraordinary. Then they realize the area stress levels going up and down in correspondence with the helmet, or rather the other way around. The helmet uses other people's hues to reflect its own. CID get the drop one the helmet uses and bust through into his apartment, and he was overly tweaking over the girl he mauled in plain sight. He sprints out of the room, and his crime coefficient is reflecting Tsunemori, so he's good. Kogumi realizes this and tells Shion to lead him to a remote area using the drones. They continuously corner him and tell Tsunemori to stay out of range. They end up at this garage and sure enough he starts reflecting Kogumi's crime coefficient. So him and Masaoka get this twin shot combo on bro with the Dominators. Kogumi's got to chill though, his crime coefficient was dead ass 282. He said he really felt like killing bro on the floor with his bare hands. It cuts to Makishima and he's getting jumped for all his helmets, and they think his heart don't beat like that because he doesn't have a helmet on. But they don't know he's one step above all of them. He doesn't need a helmet, and he just gets to frying them. He beats the 3v1 in like 10 seconds. So the city's in chaos. Everyone's going around in helmets and doing as they please like it's the purge. It gets so bad that the people without helmets feel that they gotta defend themselves and just start turning shit over too. This is literally what happens anytime something important happens in France. Like when PSG were about to play in the biggest football match, the Champions League final, they just barricaded up the whole city because they knew win or lose, the locals would just thrash the entire country. I mean, like, this is the same place that let a bunch of zoo animals roam the streets because they didn't like something that happened. Compare these two to Gotham, I see no difference. Kogumi notices that all the riots have been taking place in a way that lures out all the CID away from a single point, some sort of tower. It cuts to Makishima and his Chinese friend.
What do you mean by that?
yes, he is actually Chinese, don't cancel me, who are on their way to the tower after realizing every single signal from Sybil passes through this point, meaning it's probably the base, and they put up right now strapped to the brim. Kogami, Tsunemori, and Kaguri already set out to intercept them, but Makishima isn't too surprised by this and decides to split up knowing Kogami will target him because he really needs to get his get back. He's dead ass landing on him. Look at his face thinking about that lick back. Shion is giving them a live drop on Shogo through the security cameras, and you know Kogami start itching. He immediately tells them to split up, with Kaguri going downstairs on his ones. Kaguri finds a secret entrance to the basement that should only be 4 floors, except this shit is clearly not 4 floors. At the same time, Kogami and Tsunemori are taking a lift up. Kogami thought ahead and brought a helmet for Tsunemori to wear so they can't exploit her crime coefficient. Looking back, Kaguri Loki got the slimiest job. He's 4v1 in unknown territory and his communication just cut off, and yeah, I knew it. They get to jumping him. He manages to Loki smoke the first guy but got a nail gun to the shoulder. He picks up the guy's walkie-talkie and real life has a decent conversation with the guy on the other side. They're talking about freedom, Sybil, hoes, you know, real nigga shit. And here this guy is sitting right outside Sybil's court, but Kaguri doesn't care about all that. Nah, he really doesn't like anyone but who he likes, and if you get it, you get it. He keeps pushing forward, and these 2 guards posted up in front of him. Don't know who they think they're fooling though, and why are they dressed like that one comic relief Huecamundo Arcarankar. Kogami and Tsunemori are running up some steps, but this grunt pops out of nowhere. Kogami opes pole, but the Dominator jams, leading to Tsunemori getting shot. So he ditches the gun and gets straight to left, right, and into the suplex like it's WrestleMania 41. The reason it didn't work is because technically Shogo's crime coefficient can be reflected too. Tsunemori tells Kogami not to lose Shogo, and he keeps going. Another op pulls up on him with a sword, but he real life magnums bro with a nail gun. What happened to maintaining your hue? You're genuinely just killing niggas. And that's when we came full circle to the start of the show, when he threw this guy off a building and slammed him midair. They got blood and intestines on my face too, ew. And here comes Shogo walking down the steps like he's Aizen, man. And these guys are talking in philosophical quotes while doing the face-off. What type of aura farming is this? But then again, they are face to face, no more cat and mouse. They get straight to the boxing. Kogami goes straight for the head kick, but he gets blocked and double weaves. Peep the flexibility. Makishima's parrying, the whole time he got a smile on his face, so you know he's plotting something devious. He rocks Kogami, then starts walking him down. He even tries the leg sweep. Kogami tries this long ass front kick, but Shogo got that single leg takedown on 5-star and slams Buddy to the cement. I'm not gonna lie, he's low-key baking his ass. Look, Kogami reverses and gets back to his feet, but he gets kicked in the ribs. Then he just starts throwing straight to oxygen before getting flipped again and again. Then Makishima just straight volleys him in his temple. He's tired of playing around and pulls out his flicks, but then Tsunemori comes out of nowhere and knocks him out with the metal helmet. I know that shit hurts so bad, and now she's staring at Makishima knocked out cold and is taking every fiber in her body not to end his life. She's crying or whatever, thinking back to the time he slimed her friend, but she just doesn't have the heart. Her shit does not beat like that. She decides to arrest him instead. It cuts to Kaguri and he looks like he just got jumped by 15 niggas. He pulls him next to the ops and they both don't even mind each other. They're just intrigued by the true form of the Sybil system, and this guy here literally just uncovered the biggest secret in his life, and the first thing he did is pull out his phone. These guys have fully deep fried brains. Gen Z has nothing on them. So the Chinese guy is celebrating, thinking this is some huge scoop, but this is anime. Nobody should be celebrating early. The chief of the CID pulls up behind bro. The Dominator already pointed at him. He instinctively shoots back, must have grown up in the rack, but it's too late. Them Dominators pack a punch. The chief is hit, but instead of spewing guts and blood, she's actually a robot to Kaguri's surprise. Worst part is we both know nobody can know about this, so she points the blick at Kaguri, except he's only viable for paralysis mode. Except this is the chief, she does what she wants. Her Dominator upgrades to lethal mode, and all Kaguri can do is stare back. Check that little smirk on his way out though, he a dog for that. RIP. So that event is closed for now. The riots have stopped and Shogo is arrested. The chief painted the disappearance of Kaguri as him escaping, and also decided to remove Genoza's whole bureau from the Shogo investigation, dubbing it a special case. To be honest, this might be the best damage control I've seen from someone ever. She's really good at the slimies and shit. Alright, so here's where you might get confused. I'll try my best to narrate properly, so just lock in. Shogo wakes up and is greeted by the chief, and she's talking to him like they already know each other, despite having never met. Then she returns a book that used to belong to him, one that he gave to his accomplice from those murders way back, you know, the one that Kogami's friend was killed in. He is also the same guy that was quote-unquote disposed of by the chief, except the chief didn't actually dispose of him. He is the chief. He just has a completely new artificial body that looks exactly like a human's. The whole time the chief is explaining this, she's saying we, because she's also able to swap between multiple brains, one of them being Toa, who is Shogo's accomplice. The collective name for them is Sybil System, but they don't just pick up any old smartass from the street. It's people with unique personality traits that are able to view the world logically or something like that. Toa having the trait of being criminally asymptomatic just like Shogo is why he was chosen. And this whole talk up till now was a sales pitch for Shogo to join the Sybil System. Not like he has a choice though, she's already clutching. But Makishima is not one of my favorite antagonists for no reason. Long story short, he says, nah, I'm good out that baby bro, and gets to the boxing. He throws a book and swings a whole damn heart monitor at her. He initiates top mount and gets to cracking up her bones. Then he proceeds to say, I'm sorry, I can't enjoy the game unless I'm a part of it. And he slimes her with the heart monitor before blowing a hole in his transit plane and looking onto Gotham City. Yes, Gotham City. Batman, please save us. The CID pull up to the explosion site, but Genoza's being denied entry. Then the chief, yes, the one we saw get murked in real time like 20 inanimate minutes ago, steps out in the V. She basically says, my bad, recapture Brody for me and I'll put you back on his case. She got some high tier gaslighting, I'm not gonna lie. Additionally, she orders Kogami to be removed from the Shogo case because he potentially may kill Shogo when they want to capture him alive. Genoza relays the information and Kogami realizes that they're not even really law enforcement anymore. They're in fact basically just Shogo's bodyguards. Tsunemori and Kogami are talking, and she suggests the only way to judge Shogo is by reinstating the old court system and bringing him to trial. But Kogami says there's a much simpler method, using him to kill Makishima himself. However, Tsunemori opposes. She doesn't want her partner to become just another, murderer. This is a pretty heartfelt scene. However, I'm just a guy who narrates. I cannot include the sad piano track in the background, so you're just gonna have to imagine it with me. I'll add the sound effect to help. I probably won't do that. Genoza's asking his pops for advice and he tells him to protect himself first. However, he's not really trying to hear all that, and he says he's going to have to go up against the chief because Kogami is too valuable of an asset to leave out of the Makishima case. So he cooks up a plan to have Kogami swap to the Division 2 team and work on it from there. But Sybil is really not going to let that slide, and they decide to arrest him before he even steps foot on the company bus. The chief pops out and tells Genoza that he's going to have to deal with this dog trying to escape if he wants to redeem himself. Now, Genoza pulls out his strap and points at Kogami, but Chief thinks paralyzed mode isn't enough and real life switches it to lethal mode, and Kogami standing there, eyes closed like this isn't an issue. Nigga, look up. Who are you feeling like? You think she won't switch you down? Genoza of course doesn't actually want to shoot Kogami, but the pressure is bad. That's where Kogami suddenly gets shot by Tsunemori, paralyzing him. And she gives a cheeky response talking about your dominator must be faulty. She knew what she was doing, that's why she's my goat. Kogami wakes up with Tsunemori next to him, asleep, and he goes into Shion's office asking to take the helmet with him. He plans on leaving the CID for now, and this isn't really relevant, but Shion asks if she should have let him crack at least once. And he responds with, nah, it wouldn't have worked out. Man, who are you feeling like? We all cracking this. He pulls up a Masaoka and shares a drink with him, and he tells him how he can never let Shogo go if he wants to continue looking at himself in the mirror. Masaoka a real nigga and gives him the keys to an emergency facility before he sets off. He leaves a letter for Akane to read, all while he's creating a strap from scratch. Check how he's practicing that draw and reload, oh nah. Genoza meets with his therapist, who basically says he will probably become a latent criminal, and to that, he can only laugh. Okay, so we're approaching the climax, so I'm going to need to speed things up a tiny bit. Basically, it becomes a game of cat and mouse between Shogo and Shinya. Why? Damn. With Shogo always being a step ahead, and 2 steps behind both of them is the CID. Shogo even visits some former food plant owner who revolutionized Japan's food to have almost no flaws in production, and he wants to use that plant to turn all the food poisonous in production using the virus. And since the plant is so old, the security is before the whole Sybil BS, so he should be able to easily get in. Well, as long as he has the guy's fingerprints and eyes. I probably don't need to explain the rest. Kogami shows up, but he's late. However, one way or another, he's able to deduce Shogo's plan. I don't even question it at this point. In other news, Sybil are actively trying to recruit Tsunemori because they have observed and became intrigued in her. She learns of Sybil and the fact that they killed Kagari, and she's denouncing them, naturally. Especially considering the fact that it's made up of mostly heinous criminals' brains, but Sybil really doesn't even care. They operate strictly on efficiency, zero emotions, and in a way, I low-key respect them for that. They basically say,
Yeah, you might not mess with us, but I don't see you doing any better.
Bum.
Matter of fact, you can't even say that we're not cold at what we do.
She has a little inner episode and reaches a conclusion that she will only save Shogo like they asked her to if they withdraw the order to execute Kogami. Anyway, they reach the murder site and find Kogami's prints, which he strategically left behind in order to speed up the CID's investigation. He wants to leave them with clues to catch Shogo in case he ends up failing. Tsunemori realizes this and has a robot scan the dead guy, revealing a USB with an audio recording. It's Kogami explaining what Shogo has in plan at the food plant, and look at Makishima, man. He's grinning ear to ear. He's really enjoying the chase. He's in it for the thrill. Now we reach our final act. The dog chase. And look, they even getting the heli out for this. Kogami's at the farm and he's pushing up on the building trying to not get caught. He sees the CID land on the heli above him and he's pleasantly surprised that they're actually not bums without him. He calls them, telling them to cut out the power so Makishima can't distribute the virus to all the crops, but Tsunemori knows what he's really trying to do. He's just trying to get all the security shut off so he can kill Makishima, though she vows to not let him do that. They decide they will need to cut the power off irrespective, and Yayoi does it remotely. This is Kogami's cue to rush in. Genoza and Masaoka are tasked with checking the lab, while Tsunemori and Yayoi go together. While checking, Genoza asks his dad if he really didn't believe in him since he helped Kogami escape in order to catch Shogo, but his real ass response was that Genoza is not the same as the both of them, but that's not a bad thing. There'll be responsibility, dodge, he's just like me. Tsunemori feels like they should have caught Shogo at the power supply room, or at least Shinya, but she realizes the people she's up against really don't think like normal people. Not sure how she's only realizing this now. Have you seen what they've been doing up till now? Her next realization is that Genoza and Masaoka are likely the ones in danger. They notice this laser trap setup, but Genoza accidentally trips over a separate tripwire, causing a whole heavy load to fall on him. And just when Masaoka goes to help, Shogo is sitting behind him with a nail gun pointed at him. He manages to block the spray and pray with his metallic arm, and they get into a scuffle. Makishima's weapon of choice is this whip though for some reason. They're exchanging, but the old man still got moves and is about to get Makishima in his rear naked choke. So Shogo gets his bright idea. He decides he will just blow the whole shit down, except he really wasn't going to do something that stupid, and the camera pans to Genoza on the ground. Yeah, he's really gonna do it. Masaoka tries his hardest, but Shogo manages to throw the dynamite in Genoza, and despite Genoza screaming to leave him, Masaoka can't just leave his son to go out like that, so he runs over and attempts to throw it back, but it goes off before then. Genoza forcefully breaks his own arm in order to tend to his father, who has his whole left side blown off, and Shogo is there smiling in the background. This man is a real life supervillain. Kogami is alerted by the loud bang and pulls up guns blazing, but he's breaking everything, not gonna lie, and Shogo runs away. He sees Genoza, and man, this face broke my heart, but Kogami has a mission, and he reluctantly runs past both of them to pursue Shogo. Genoza begins shouting at his pops for letting Shogo get away, but we all know he really is mad he sacrificed himself. Masaoka places his hand on Genoza's face and says he reminds him of himself when he was younger before gracefully passing away. That man was really my dog. Cheers to Masaoka, man. And let's notice how that's already more important deaths in 22 episodes than the entirety of One Piece. Kogami and Shogo are once again talking while in a life or death fight. It's a shame Kogami is missing every pistol shot. He needs to go to Chicago, then YNs will get him right in a jiffy. Makishima sneaks Kogami and knocks his blick out before attempting a 5-star karate kick but missing. Now they turn this into a knife fight. I got my bets on any nigga who grew up in East London. I hear they got Zampactos over there. They're both going for blood, but it ends up in this stalemate, and Makishima is shit talking before swinging wild with his blade. But both of these guys might be the last airbender, who knows? It's just straight wind. But that gets reversed, and I've never seen that move before. He got him pointed to the sea like Aaron. Shogo about to cut off bro's hand, but he flips the blade in his hand to intercept. They going duffel for duffel. This is some of the deepest bag 1v1s I've ever seen. He shoulders Shogo off and finally connects with bro. Is this like not the first time this guy's bled in the entire series? He's at a disadvantage now with no weapon. But just as Kogami charges in, an EMP grenade flies between them. However, Shogo was once Ronaldo in a past life because he had no issues bicycle kicking something the size of a tennis ball into the air. Anyway, it was thrown by Tsunemori, who commands Kogami to stand down. Why are you pointing at him? What about the mass murderer? Where's the mass murderer? She takes his weapon and gives Kogami a dominator that's fixed on paralyzer mode. That's what she says he will use on Shogo so he doesn't have to kill him. And then they begin following his blood trail to hunt him down. They're in this garage behind a truck when it suddenly reverses to run them both over. Luckily, they both manage to dive out the way before it drives off again. However, Tsunemori is holding onto the back of the truck. She manages to shoot the tire of the truck, causing it to spin out. The truck goes a good 15 feet in the air too. Next thing you know, Shogo got a pistol pointed at Tsunemori's dome, and he lets it fly but has no bullets. However, for one reason or another, Makishima shows mercy after that and moves away before Kogami comes and tends to Tsunemori. But we already know he's in too deep. He reloads the pistol Tsunemori took from him and moves off to pursue Shogo. The injured Shogo is running away, but he can barely move due to injury anymore. He gets on his knees and lets the wind blow through him. Standing behind him is Kogami. Makishima asks if Kogami will ever find someone like him again, in which Kogami responds, "I really hope I don't." Kogami points the gun to Makishima and he smiles, almost looking relieved, before dying at the hands of the only man he tolerated killing him. With that, Tsunemori had failed, and Kogami is a murderer. And yeah, that just about rounds up the climax. Double Soul messes with Tsunemori. They think she's got hella potential. Kogami's gone missing. Genoza ends up becoming an enforcer as he was never able to recover his crime coefficient. He also stopped wearing his glasses. He only wore them because he didn't like how his face looked, but he doesn't seem to care about that anymore. Lastly, they got a new inspector to take Genoza's place. But that's a story for another time. It's been Narratives. Peace.